Okay, good evening. We're continuing in our session, our class on our series on Jeremiah. And last week we talked about the death of Josiah at length, somewhat outside of the context of Jeremiah. We saw the midrash that kind of brought them together, They don't seem to there isn't a direct interaction about the death of Josiah and where he's going. So that's followed up, of course, with the next king, right? So what happens, right? Last time we talked about the Pharaoh who was on his way to help his allies, the Assyrians, and he came back down. And on his way up, Josiah went to intercept him, and that's where Josiah was killed. Okay, so we know from the Babylonian and Egyptian archaeological records that Necho went where he went. He did his job. He didn't seem to stick around long enough for the end of the conflict, but he maybe stemmed the tide, right? Again, those are details we don't need to deal with. Then he returns to Egypt. On his way down to Egypt, he stops off to see how things are doing in this lovely place of Judah. Right. In Judah, he finds that they've put that the Am Haaretz, right, which is not necessarily the way we think of it in kind of common parlance of in modern Hebrew, Am Haaretz. Well, first of all, Am Haaretz in the singular is an ignorant person, but the Am Haaretz is kind of synonymous with the Hamon Am, right? Kind of the masses, right? And it doesn't seem to be the case that's what Am Haaretz means in this context, right? But the local leadership, right? The people who are the perhaps the ministers, perhaps again there isn't as formal a legislative body in the same way, but in any case they've put Yehoachaz on the throne. Yehoachaz is Josiah's second son.
Right.
He is anti-Egypt, anti-Assyrian. Right? He wants to stoke a rebellion, right? Am I right according to the chart?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
He doesn't last very long.
He does not last long at all, right? A couple of months maximum.
Apparently imprisoned by Pharaoh
right.
Necho, and he dies in Egypt.
Right. Necho, on his way down, says, I beat these guys. Right? And they put in a king who's opposed to me. This is not going to fly. He takes Yehoachaz with him, right? And installs Yehoiakim, right? And whose name actually is Eliakim. He's the oldest son of Josiah.
Right.
And he installs Yehoiakim, right? And we'll see actually. You can see if you want. Right, what it says about that, right, in Malachim Bet, in 2 Kings chapter 23, verses 30 to 35. This is, by the way, immediately after what we read last week, right? Meaning right after Josiah's death and his burial, right? The people took the Second Kings 23. The second half of verse 30, right? The first half is his servants carried him, Josiah, in a chariot, dead from Megiddo, and brought him to Yerushalayim and buried him in his own tomb. The people of the land, that's the Am Haaretz, took Yehoachaz, the son of Yoshiyahu, and anointed him and made him king in his father's stead. Yehoachaz was 23 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 3 months in Yerushalayim. And his mother's name was Chamutal, the daughter of Yirmiyahu from Livna, not the same Yirmiyahu. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. And Paro Necho put him in bands at Rivla in the land of Hamat, that he might not reign in Yerushalayim, put the land to a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Paro Necho made Eliakim, the son of Yoshiyahu, king in place of Yoshiyahu, his father, and turned his name to Yehoiakim, and took Yehoachaz away, and he came to Mitzrayim where he died. And Yehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Paro, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the commandment of Paro. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people to the land of everyone according to his taxation to give it to Paro Necho. Right, so Yehoiakim is put in. He's a puppet, right? Not only is he a
Obviously.
puppet, right? Obviously, not only is he a puppet. I mean, he was installed by the right. I mean, it's his brother, right?
He was renamed.
Right, he was renamed. Right, literally, he's renamed. Not only is he a puppet and a vassal, but he's instructed by Paro to tax the people, right? And who do you think bears the burden of this tax?
The common people.
The common people, right? For a very simple reason.
Stuff hasn't changed in 3,000
For a very simple reason. Very, very simple, right? Because the landowners, or more than landowners, right? The people who have a little bit more can afford to pay their workers a little bit less. They can afford to live on less, right? So the burden is not felt by them. The burden is felt by the commoners, the middle class, lower middle class. Okay. Again, just by way of background, right? Even though we have this, on the one hand, Nebuchadnezzar, we have Necho kind of not sticking around for the conclusion of this, long-standing battle. On the other hand, the archaeological records tell us that Nebuchadnezzar basically says he can't shake Egypt. He can't get rid of Egypt, right? Meaning he can't get rid of Egypt's control. He's not even necessarily trying to take over Egypt in Egypt yet. He's trying to take over the Egyptian and Assyrian controlled areas closer to him, and he can't do it. Right? Syria is under Egypt's control, and as we said, Judah is a vassal.
Right.
Okay. So now, that's going to bring us to chapter 22 in Jeremiah. Back on Jeremiah. I know it's been a while. Okay.
Just to bring Steve quickly up to date.
Right.
Josiah is killed in the battle with the Egyptians. Josiah's second son, Jehoahaz, is king for 3 months. Egypt comes back from its small mini war, supporting the Assyrians. Comes back, sees this king that's installed that's anti-Egypt. So he pulls that king out, takes him down to Egypt, and he installs his older brother, Josiah's first son, whom he renames Jehoiakim as the king of Israel, Judah.
Because he was a supporter of
because his brother was against Egypt, and it was against
Egypt, the Egyptian-Assyrian alliance.
Right.
It's not even meaning. It's not an alliance now, right? Again, Judah is not.
Maybe it's more of a détente.
No. I'm saying for Judah. Judah is not in position. Short of its strategic location, Judah is not in a position to dictate terms to anybody, right? Right now, Judah's king was killed by Pharaoh, right? I mean, that's it's like a chess game, right? I mean, you kill the king, you lose, right? You can't go around opposing the ones who have already defeated you. Okay. Now, again, this is the military and strategic and geopolitical things that are going on. We haven't really dealt with that, and there wasn't a war, right? But on the other hand, it's insulting, right? I killed your father, the king, right? Pharaoh Necho says, and here you, the people, right? Again, Am Haaretz, which we said we generally would think of as being the right, but here seems to refer to local leadership rather than kind of commoners, local councils, perhaps, right? Somehow or another, that they have more of an authority, and so they decide, we're gonna continue this fight. And Pharaoh, who's returning from Assyria with his armies, says, no way, right? And he installs a pro-Egyptian king, right? By the way, whether he installs a pro-Egyptian king or whether Jehoiakim is pro-Egyptian by dint of the fact of who installed him as king, I'm not sure, right? Meaning, Jehoiakim may not have had a pro-Egyptian election platform, but the realities of governing, he has been put into power by the Pharaoh. Pharaoh says, you're in power, and you're with us. Not only are you with us, you're going to send us a tax, right? And it's an incredibly, incredibly burdensome tax.
Isn't he upset that his brother was killed by these same people?
Sure he is, but he
There's
doesn't
nothing
have a
you
choice.
can do about it.
Doesn't have a choice.
Okay.
I mean, you know.
And Jeremiah, I'm guessing, perceives all this as punishment.
He hasn't. No. He has. I wouldn't say he perceives this as punishment. He's going to respond to the kingdom of Jehoiakim.
Okay.
Right. Meaning.
And
right. Josiah gets his own punishment. Josiah has been punished. Right. We saw that a long time ago. Right. Josiah, for whatever reason, right, he's not. Right. We know that Jeremiah views Josiah as a great king. And will continue to do so. In fact, in this chapter, we're going to see Jeremiah's lament, right, directly in Jeremiah, as opposed to last week we saw it in Eicha, in Lamentations. Right, but here we're going to see it within the book of Jeremiah. Okay? And, I mean, Josiah is, I don't want to say that Jeremiah thinks that Josiah could do no wrong. That's not quite the case. But Josiah is certainly the best he could hope for. Right? Jehoiakim is installed, and we'll see exactly what Jeremiah says, right? And again, Jeremiah is what does Jeremiah think versus what is Jeremiah told by God? It's unclear. It's unclear to me. I think it's unclear from the book, but we'll see. Okay, so we see the beginning of chapter 22, right? In Jeremiah, that is, not in Kings. Okay.
By the way,
yes.
Kings, it says about almost all the kings after Josiah, they did that which was evil in the eyes of the Lord. I mean, it was bang, 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 all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Joachaz, Joachim, his son, and then Zedekiah.
Right. Well, so we'll get there. All right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay.
Right.
So chapter 22, right? Koamar Hashem red Beit Melech Yehuda v'dibarta Hashem et hadavar zeh. Thus said the Lord, go down to the palace of the king of Judah, where you shall utter this word. Say, right? This is right now. We hear this from Jeremiah, but it's God speaking to Jeremiah. Yes. So again, how that works. Say, hear the word of the Lord, O king of Judah, you who sit on the throne of David, and your courtiers and your subjects who enter these gates. Thus said the Lord, do what is just and right. Rescue from the defrauder him who is robbed. Do not wrong the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. Commit no lawless act, and do not shed the blood of the innocent in this place. For if you fulfill this command, then through the gates of this palace shall enter kings of David's line who sit upon his throne, riding horse-drawn chariots with their courtiers and their subjects. All right, so now we stop for a second, right? What's not there? Yes?
This is very surprising to me.
Okay.
Because for several weeks in a row, we've been talking about how the die is cast. You know, at this point, no matter what, there's going to be some punishment. Now, it's almost like a new covenant, saying, behave yourself and you'll
Except
exist.
it only lasts 3 verses.
Oh, okay.
You're right, but it's typical. On the other hand,
the door is cracked open.
Right. But not even. Meaning, this is typical of the prophet, right? The prophet goes in, says, "Look, if I walk in here and say, you're all going, where,
you're going down, baby."
Nobody's going to listen to me. The fact is, nobody's going to listen to him anyway. But he's going to be, carried out in shackles if he's lucky.
But they never listened to Jonah, so it's not like it hasn't been done.
You're right.
It's just not Jeremiah's style.
But these weren't Jews.
Most of the prophets weren't Jews, right?
There was Jews are stubborn. So,
right. Okay.
Right?
All right.
So Jeremiah goes in and says, he says, look, if you do this, and look what's in here. Idol worship is not in here. Either within Jerusalem, at least from a formal point of view, at least from an external point of view, the idol worship is gone. There's no idols in the temple.
Because
Josiah took care of it.
That's the one thing he did.
It's not the one thing. I mean, he did many things. Incredible. Right? What he did was
he got the
spectacular.
Right.
And look at what Jeremiah says. Jeremiah says, you know how things are going to go well? You know how we're going to have a king from David's line? Right, and by the way, it's fantastic. Right, he's talking in the palace of the king of Judah and says, "Yes, this is how kings of the line of David are going to come in." What do you think? How do you think Jehoiakim feels about that?
Hey, I am a king.
What am I doing? What am I? Chopped liver? Okay, so right,
well, actually, a person would want, if a person is a king, he'd want his progeny to be king as well, and it could be reassuring.
Right.
that your family will stay in power.
It's interesting. One of the interesting things, by the way, is that, and I had a little bit of difficulty following it, and so I'm a little bit waiting for the English version, or to get a chance to talk to Rabbi Lau. But if you see this, Rabbi Lau, give us a call. But he explains a very interesting archaeological point about a palace of a king of Judah from around this time period that was discovered outside of the precincts of Jerusalem, in Ramat Rachel, which you can go to today. I mean, there was an excavation. They didn't expect to find it. It was outside the city, right? Not just outside the old city. Again, that's the old city, right? If you go to Israel, you see the city of David. There's all kinds of different things going on. Okay, this is outside the precincts of the city altogether. So maybe that's the reference.
And why is that surprising? People do have summer homes even nowadays.
By the way, it actually says it says a winter home.
Or winter home, but
yes,
people do want to get away from the crowd.
Yes, right. There's a couple of elements of it. One is that you have to remember, he's charging a tax, sending to Egypt, that's breaking the backs of the people.
In other words, to have the economy that would support another palace,
right,
says something.
Right. Okay, but it's not meaning the economy doesn't support another palace, but he built it anyway. Right. That's number one. Number two, whether in this context of in the gates of this palace, and it says this gates of this palace, right, shall enter the kings of David's line, or would sit upon his throne. Right? Meaning there's a little bit of a nudge, I'd say, against Yehoiakim, but he's still saying things. He's still trying to smooth his way in, right? He's trying to say nice things or more positive things on the way in.
All right.
Right? But what he says is spectacular. Right? Again, do what is just and right, rescue from the defrauder him who is robbed, do not wrong the stranger, the fatherless and the widow, commit no lawless act, and do not shed the blood of the innocent in this place.
Sounds like they have a new chance to live.
Sounds like it.
Right.
Right? But now, then he continues, the verse 5. But if you do not, sorry, I'm going the wrong way in this book. But if you do not heed these commands, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that this palace shall become a ruin. For thus said the Lord concerning the royal palace of Judah, you are as Gilead to me as the summit of Lebanon, but I will make you a desert, uninhabited towns. I will appoint destroyers against you, each with his tools. They shall cut down your choicest cedars and make them fall into the fire. And when many nations pass by the city, and one man asks another, why did the Lord do thus to that great city? The reply will be, because they forsook the covenant with the Lord their God and bowed down to other gods and served them.
This is straight out of the Torah.
Yeah.
I mean, Leviticus chapter 26 and Deuteronomy. I mean, it's almost not quite word for word, but the same ideas.
Same themes.
Right.
Absolutely. Right? Mm-hmm. Right? This is the die is cast. Right? It's not working. If you had done that, you could have saved yourselves, but you can't. Right? I would even go so far as to say, right? I mean, if you read this chapter literally, right? Look, the end of verse 9 is, why did the Lord do this? Because they forsook the covenant and bowed down to other gods and served them. But the first half of that chapter says, if you had been moral, you could have averted this.
I have it in English.
Yeah,
in English, it seems like a conditional situation. If you behave, good things will happen.
Yes.
If you don't behave, bad things will happen. Is that what it says in Hebrew also?
Yeah. No, this translation is excellent. Right, I'm
okay.
reading the same translation as you.
So why do you say that?
No, but look at the details. The devil's in the details, right? The end of verse 9 says, why was this place destroyed? Because you worshipped other gods. You bowed down to other gods. But how could you save yourself? By acting morally. This is not what we call a chiddush, right? This is not a novel point, right? Meaning, look, God wants you to not worship to false gods, right? We understand that. That's true. But if you act morally, and here we have basic pieces of morality, taking care of those who are less fortunate, commit no lawless act, right, do what is just and right, right? I mean, that is exactly straight out of not the chapters that you mentioned, Simcha, but straight out of Kedoshim, right?
Of course.
Asu mishpat u'tzedakah, right? Justice and righteousness. Simple, right? The implication that I read out of this, and perhaps it's too strong, but I don't know. But what I get out of this is you could be worshiping idols from here till tomorrow, till next week. But if you're moral, then I won't destroy you altogether like I'm about to, right? God is saying. One could also argue that with false gods, right, morality is the next thing. It is soon to follow, One thing leads to another. I wouldn't doubt that, and I wouldn't question that at all. But it's but the juxtaposition is interesting to me.
You're gleaning that because in these previous sentences, false gods are not mentioned.
Right.
Only the positive.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay. So now he goes in and says, he goes into his lament for Josiah. Right? Do not weep for the dead and do not lament for him. Weep rather for him who is leaving. Right? And that's Yehoachaz. That's who's going down to Egypt with Necho. For he shall never come back to see the land of his birth. For thus said the Lord concerning Shallum, son of King Josiah of Judah, which this is also a reference to Yehoachaz, right? And it's mentioned that way in Chronicles as well.
Another name that he has.
Shallum, interesting. I mean, the root is as clear as day there. Shalom. And that's the root of the name. It's the same letters in the Hebrew.
Yeah, apparently the kings assumed other names at their coronation.
Right. And it's not uncommon, right?
Not uncommon, even they say...
Right? By the way, Shalom, who else's name has that root?
Solomon.
Is it not, I mean...
As a matter of fact, according to this, kings of Judah took throne names at the coronation, thus Solomon's personal name was Jedediah.
I mean,
I
again...
never heard that.
No, I didn't either.
Where did that come from?
I mean, it's not based in this text. It's based from other. That commentary has. It's the JPS. I mean, it's JPS's commentary. It's an expanded version, which is scholarly and comes from a certain knowledge of things that went on in that time period. We have that in a lot of places that we see different names for these people.
Yes.
Okay, so that is fair. Except that, I mean that's a fair thing to say, but we kind of go by how they're described, right? But I think it's interesting. I think there's another interesting juxtaposition. You could argue that Solomon built the temple, and here we have Shallum, who is the beginning of the end, right? Meaning Shallum is the first of this quick succession of kings before the end of the temple. Right. Again, it's just I don't know that it's related, but to me it's striking. Right. Thus said the Lord concerning Shallum, son of King Josiah of Judah, who succeeded his father Josiah as king, but who has gone forth from this place. He shall never come back. He shall die in the place to which he was exiled, and he shall not see this land again. Okay. So that's Yehoachaz. He's gone, right? I mean, he didn't last very long. He's done.
3 months and he's out.
Right. Verse 13 is talking about Yehoiakim. Ha, right? And the other way in Hebrew, hoi, right? Boneveto below tzedek. He who builds his house with unfairness, with lack of justice, right? Below tzedek, and his upper chambers with injustice. Who makes his fellow man work without pay and does not give him his wages? Who thinks I will build me a vast palace with spacious upper chambers, provided with windows, paneled in cedar, painted with vermilion? Do you think you are more a king because you compete in cedar? Your father ate and drank and dispensed justice and equity, then all went well with him. He upheld the rights of the poor and needy, then all was well. That is truly heeding me, right? Halohi hada'at oti, right? It could even be.
Did he not know?
Knowing. Well, no, right. Halo hi hadad oti ne'um Hashem, right? It says that is that not knowing me, right? Da'at oti. Is that not knowing me? Heeding it doesn't convey it quite as well, right? The Koran translation that I had here was not this to know me, meaning Josiah did the right thing. And do you think that just because you could buy lots of cedar wood, that you can build a palace, that's what it means to know me if you do that while breaking the backs of your subjects? Right? I mean, your subjects, who of course are my subjects, God's subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But your eyes and your mind are only on ill-gotten gains, on shedding the blood of the innocent, on committing fraud and violence. Okay, and that's the end of this chapter for us, because the next. I'm sorry, no, it's not. I apologize. A couple more verses. Right? Assuredly, thus said the Lord concerning Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah: they shall not mourn for him, ah brother, ah sister. They shall not mourn for him, ah Lord, ah his majesty. Right? You're not going to be mourned the way Josiah is mourned. Right? The people love Josiah. You are not going to be mourned that way. He shall have the burial of an ass, dragged out and left lying outside the gates of Jerusalem.
Now, he said that he was supposedly saying this directly to the king?
We are not sure if he's saying it in the court or saying it directly to the king. There's going to be a bunch of these.
Either way, it's a risky thing to say.
It's pretty risky if you're saying this in the king's neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah. And he's not done. We're going to see how much he's not done. Right. The rest of this chapter, if you could look ahead to 24, you can see to verse 24. You see Chonya, right, which is a different king, which is again another instance of why the book seems to be out of order. Right. It has paragraphs lifted. Again, this is something that I look forward to hearing an answer to. It's some sort of suggestion as to whether it's just a scribal mistake, mm-hmm. or is it, is it just a scribal mistake, or how did this thing all get put together in such a piecemeal way? Okay, so what I want to do now is just see the beginning of chapter 26 and recommend to you that you read all. Try to see if you want to read all of 26 before the next time. It's a long chapter, and it's very significant. We're gonna do 26. Just so you're aware, right? We're gonna go from 26 to. We're also going to have some of chapter 7. Just going to kind of come back into it, and then from there to 19.
Right? Chapter 26.
26, 7, and 19. We're going to read those kind of all as a bigger unit. So let's look at this. And this is, again, there's a bunch of these prophecies that are all in Jerusalem. That it's all taking place in Jerusalem. So we'll see at the beginning of chapter 26 what it says, and we'll read it and see what we think. It'll leave us with some thought. At the beginning of the reign of King Jehoiakim, son of Josiah of Judah, this word came from the Lord. Thus said the Lord: stand in the court of the house of the Lord. Now we're in the temple. We're in the court of the temple, and speak to the men of all the towns of Judah who are coming to worship in the house of the Lord all the words which I command you to speak to them. By the way, before I say that, Jehoiakim has not done anything in terms of the temple. He's not ruined the temple. The temple is still fine. And in other places, Rabbi Lau suggests that that's because he, as we've talked about before, he views the temple as his trump card. He views the temple as his security barrier. Right?
Why? Because he has the power to do anything?
No, because God's not going to destroy the temple.
Because his father did this, he's not changing it, so I figured, my dad did it, that was okay with God, so I'm in good shape.
But he also we'll see the end. We'll see the end of this chapter, or not near the end of this chapter with Hezekiah, right? This temple seems to Jehoiakim like a get out of jail free card. Okay, all right. So thus said the Lord: stand in the court of the house of the Lord.
Something?
Yeah, sorry.
If if we really did all obey God's commandments, it's not quite a get out of jail free card, but we would have God's protection.
But not just that. Right, meaning whatever you think about the temple service and its place in Judaism proper. I know to whom I'm speaking. Right, whatever you think about that, there's no question. I mean, the prophets one after another say, look, the temple is just a building, right? Yes, it's a place where you can encounter God and worship and serve, and that's important. But if it's empty of real service of God, if it's lip service, right? I mean, if you steal money and buy your sacrifices with
then
it,
it becomes
it's no better than one of the high places or anything else. Okay, so that we have no disagreement, right? That is the temp. But time and time again, the kings don't get it. And the people don't get it, but especially the kings don't get it, right? The kings think that the temple is their saving grace with or without proper service.
That's the problem.
So, right? So, stand in the court of the house of the Lord and speak to the men of all the towns of Judah who are coming to worship in the house of the Lord all the words which I command you to speak to them. Do not omit anything. Perhaps they will listen and turn back, each from his evil way, that I may renounce the punishment I am planning to bring upon them for their wicked acts.
Fantastic.
The doors of repentance are still open. Another chance. Say to them, thus said the Lord, if you do not obey me, abiding by the teaching which I have set before you. Right? Just double checking. Right? That's chapter 26, verse 4. I'm going to guess that's Torah, right? B'Toratai, right? Lelecha b'Torati. Right? By the teaching I have set before you, heeding the words of my servants, the prophets, whom I have been sending to you persistently, but you have not heeded. Then I will make this house like Shiloh, and I will make this city a curse for all the nations of the earth. Right? Now that they know.
Yes.
Right? There's no ambiguity there. They know exactly what happened to Shiloh, and they do not want that to happen to them. Or at least so we think. If they believe Jeremiah, then they'll listen. And we're going to see, and now we'll see there was some of the response. Look at this.
Before you go on, what's happened in the last... I missed one class.
Yes.
But it seems to me that by the people getting